Welcome back to the Football Terrace. Hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribing. Turn those bell notifications on as well. Deadly is all I've got to say about Chelsea and Manchester City today. Yes, they were up against much lesser, much inferior opponents. However, they still had to be on point. They had to be hungry. They had to be clinical. And there's always this accusation that the big Premier League clubs don't take the FA Cup seriously. Rotation doesn't dictate an unserious side. It's absolutely essential when you're fighting on 3, 4, 5 fronts, and it always has been. And I think today what we saw were two squads, very, very hungry indeed. Individual players trying to fight their way into first teams, and they delivered. It was emphatic. It was obviously devastating for the league. I think they're both League Two sides. The League Two sides in that regard. Big wins indeed. Hit the like and the share button, as I've already said. We want to get your views. We want to get your opinions over the course of the next hour or so on here. Going to go to some of your comments as well. Terry, if it was Arsenal who beat a small team today, you would say it was scary. Well, I've said it's absolutely deadly. It's a pretty big compliment and more to come. Now, I know you're obviously joking. Some of the trolls are not, though. 38 games for Jack Fraudish to score a goal. Look, I don't think he's got his goal. City fans are still going to want more from him from open play in the bigger games, but that could be a big confidence booster for him. There's no doubt. Jeremy Doku with 4 GA, absolutely. And this is, I think players like Doku, players like Savio, they weren't picking up GA today. They should hold their heads in shame because they're so above League Two level. It's unbelievable. O'Reilly, do you know what you say? O'Reilly was my man of the match today, actually, for Man City. I thought O'Reilly was brilliant. I don't believe he's a centre-back or a centre-back, left-back playing in that role, but I thought he was majestic today in every single way, shape, and form. I thought he was great. And, top player indeed. McAtee, listen, I had a big fight with Hamza on the show when he said that Pepper tried everything to fix the team and there was no other solution left. This was a young man that should have got far more game time earlier on this season. I think he has made a point today with a hat-trick. I think he has stood up and made himself be counted. And listen, it may only be Salford, but I don't play those games of, he's found his level now. I just don't do that kind of nonsense because it will only be used against my players and my team later on down the line. It's dead, overused banter. He made a statement today. He made a statement to say, put me into the first team and I can show you that I can do it there. He really, really did. But yeah, City fans should be happy with that performance. As I say, there's always a potential banana skin in the FA Cup, and they were very, very professional indeed. From Chelsea's point of view, I know it was a few hours ago, but Chelsea, very, very similar today. A little bit of a difficult first half for Chelsea at times. It took a while for them to break Morecambe down. They had the penalty, which I have to say, the penalty that Morecambe got was maybe the strangest goal. Or, sorry, no, it wasn't the goal. Maybe the strangest penalty that I've ever seen because I'm I understand why it was given. However, and I mean this, I know what the defender was doing. The commentator was saying, why is his hands in the air? Well, he put his hands in the air because he had so much passion and adrenaline running through him. He believed the ball went out. So he's still half trying to block it, but he's also screaming, out ball. But the ball got crossed and it hit his hand and they gave a penalty. And what's really funny is I'm sitting there thinking, well, that's actually a natural position, isn't it? It's a natural position to put your hand up when you appeal for something. I'm not saying it shouldn't have been a penalty. It was just a calamity and it was comedy. Then it was saved, but the goalie was off his line. No VAR, so it couldn't be retaken. But Chelsea struggled to break them down and score in the first half, an abundance of opportunities. And then Tosin has a bit of a lucky shot in the sense that it deflected and went in. But the second half began, and in Nkunku, and then Tosin scored another very good goal, and then two very well taken goals by João Felix. put the cherry, on top of the icing, on top of the cake, battered them, simplistic. Chelsea fans can now enjoy the rest of the season. Sorry, the rest of the weekend, not the rest of the season, the rest of the weekend. And then it was on to Manchester City, as we say. And I will say this as well, by the way, both the Morecambe and the Salford City fans were brilliant, singing things like, I think I heard the Salford fans sing a song along the lines of, when they were like 7-0 up, they were telling City they were crap because how can you only be 7-0 up against us? I think Morecambe did the same when they were 4-0, 5-0 down, saying, how crap are you? It's only 5-0. I like a bit of banter like that. The only sour note for me today, and listen, Man United fans are guilty of this as well, and it wasn't just these two matches. I don't like the fans of the giant, rich super clubs kind of belittling and mocking the smaller clubs at the lower end of the pyramid. There's something about that. I can't quite articulate why. It just doesn't sort of sit right with me. You know, I've been away grounds. I've been away for big FA Cup games and been around people that have said stuff. And I'm like, mate, come on. You know, at the end of the day, we all fall in love with our football clubs. Some people pick the biggest, the most successful teams for a reason. You know, if you're a City fan, though, no one other than the young ones picked City because they were good. Anyone that's 25 years old or older, picked City when they weren't a big team. So like, don't mock a small club. But I'm not specifically pointing the finger at Chelsea and City fans. I'm talking by and large the sort of the big six and maybe the top half of the Premier League. Really, I saw a Fulham fan do an interview yesterday talking about some lower level clubs around the West London area. And I just thought, you don't even know your own history. You were there 10, 15 years ago. Just something a bit messy about that for me, a little bit nasty. Don't quite like it, but there we go. That's just me. Maybe I'm being a bit of a snowflake, if I'm being honest with you, when it comes to that. Something about it. I care about the pyramid, I suppose, of English football. City fan here says, we found our level. See, the joke's funny when you do it about yourself. I absolutely agree with that. Big up those lower level clubs. They got banter, City and Chelsea. Of course they do, because, and this is the thing, what those lower level clubs today is that they didn't mean to do it directly, but they embarrassed Standards FC. They embarrassed Standards FC because the idea that you only support a football club and everyone at every football club should have sort of Real Madrid, Barcelona, sort of level standards is ridiculous, because not every club is in the same position. I listened to a Joe Rogan podcast once, and he said that he hates the expression pull yourself up by your bootstraps, because not everybody has bootstraps. You can't, Molly May, a very famous English kind of influencer, I think she was on Love Island. She once said that everybody has the same 24 hours in a day, a completely ridiculous comment to make, because not everybody does have the same 24 hours in a day. The same can be said for football clubs. Not every football club. Some towns, unless they were to miraculously get taken over by a trillionaire, are never going to be a top Premier League club. Some towns don't have the population to generate the fans to ever be that popular. What, should just fold them? Should those fans have ridiculous level and standards? I just don't like it. And I think what you saw today was the humility, the sort of humbleness of football, but also the brilliance and the passion and the love that people have for their clubs, but with no arrogance. Salford know where they are. Salford fans know where they are. They won't even be embarrassed by losing 8-0. The die-hard Salford fans won't be embarrassed. The die-hard Morecambe fans won't be embarrassed. What they'll be proud of, and unless you've ever been to lower-level football, you won't get this. They'll be proud that their teams actually work really hard, that they fought until the end, that they tried their best. Both will be gutted they didn't get a goal, and both probably should have scored today. But fair play to them, because I thought they did themselves proud today. And anyone saying any different, I think, just doesn't understand football at its core, in my personal opinion, because football wasn't invented to win trophies. It's brilliant that we do. I love it. It's an important facet. But there we go. Most fans are glory hunters. Not necessarily. I don't necessarily agree with that. I remember getting laughed at when I picked Man United. It was deemed as a stupid decision, as an example. But some people do. Some people fall in love with a brand of football. There's multiple reasons why people pick teams. But but you're lucky. I can only think back to when I was a kid. Everybody picked their team. And when you're a little kid, you don't really know who the best and who the worst is. In reality, you don't. When you're 4, 5, 6 and you're picking your team, you pick it for a different reason that has nothing to do with winning 9 times out of 10. And You have no idea what direction your club's going to go in from that point. When I was a little kid picking my first team, Everton were amazing. Villa were amazing. They're getting back to it, but they were amazing. Leeds were one of the best teams in the country. Forest, one of the best teams in the country. Man United were a laughingstock. We had a good history, but we were a laughingstock. I don't even think we were in the top 6 or 7 in terms of most league titles. There was 5, 6, 7 other clubs that had more FA Cups than us. And if you'd have said back in the late 80s when I picked Man United that we'd have become the most successful team or second most successful team and overtaken everybody in league titles and blah, 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 it would have been laughed at. Equally, there were teams back then, if you'd have told Forest fans, you guys are going to get relegated in the early 90s and spend over a quarter of a century out of the top flight, you would have been laughed at. And I think that's why I don't take what my club is for granted. In fact, I push for it to always try and remain at its absolute best. But yeah, I thought the fans for all of the lower level teams today were amazing. I really, really do. Scary, scintillating city. Cheers, mate. Cheers. Terry, what made you pick United when there are so many clubs in London? Great question, Tommy. I spoke about it before. There's a few, it's a little multifaceted, really. So firstly, my dad was a Spurs fan, but he's quite a liberal man, my dad. And there was never any, you have to support Tottenham. He said you can pick whatever team you want. Didn't say local, didn't say it had to be London, didn't say it has to be the same as me. I will add, I don't give my children that freedom. They are all Man United fans. They have zero choice or they have to leave the house. That's it. The next level is David Beckham was from the same part of East London I was from, and there was a lot of hype and a lot of focus on Man United because he was in the academy and there was a lot of talk about him as an example. There was another facet to this, which was a fluke. My dad still tried to make it, but I hadn't picked the team yet. And in the late 80s, Man United had a white away kit. And my nan mistakenly bought that for me instead of a Spurs kit because, God rest her soul, she had no idea. Big up yourself, Nan. Big Nan, as we called her in my house. And I was bought a Manchester United shirt. Those three things combined, I picked the team. But my dad had one very strict rule when it came to picking a football team, is you do not change. He made an exception for 2 of my brothers. And that was because they decided to stop supporting Liverpool and to support Leyton Orient. They weren't. And he's basically said, well, you're not trading up, you're trading down almost. And that was because they caught the bug of going to the Orient games and they wanted to continue doing that. So it's the only time in my family, and my rules are only for my family. I don't care what the rest of you do in reality. That was the reasons. I've got another brother who is one still a Liverpool fan, and the other one, Billy, he's an Arsenal fan. The 2 that support Orient still have a soft spot for Liverpool. They still like to see Liverpool do well, but they are week in, week out, home and away, diehard Orient fans. And that's kind of it, really. So, yeah, mixture. And my dad's Spurs, my grandparents are West Ham. And, yeah, just the way the family is. There was never any, you have to support local. And if my dad would have said, you have to pick a local team, it would have been Spurs, West Ham, or Leyton Orient based on where I lived. But he didn't. And you are led by your parents, in my view. But he did have some rules. You couldn't have more than one team, even from other countries. You cannot wear another club's kit or colours. And once you pick your team, with barring a little exception, you don't change, especially if they're top flight sides. And those rules we stuck to. So that's kind of it. Tostin and George were our best players today. Yeah, Tostin and George I thought were very good today. I thought George, especially on that side, and again, I've seen all the same banter. Oh, it was against Morecambe. What does it matter? I think players like George today, I think players like McAtee for Man City, I think they've laid down a little bit of a little gauntlet to their managers to say, give me some opportunities in some tougher games, in some harder matches against more difficult opponents to really test where I am at. That was kind of my view from the outside looking in. I'm going to bring a couple of people on the show now to have their say. We've got Kel, who's a City fan, and I recognize the name. We've got Ronin, who's a Chelsea fan. And I'll be honest with you, he looks nothing like I thought he would. And that's not a dig. He actually looks like my dad. I'm not even going to lie. So we're going to bring them out now. Welcome to the... Oh, you good?
Great to be here. Ladies first, sorry.
Good to meet you as well. I'm going to go to Ronin first, as Chelsea played earlier today. A good 5-0 win. What was your thoughts on that performance from your team today, mate?
You're a boxing fan, so you know that some of the slowest, most dragged-out fights when you see a top pro fight someone who's not near their class, and it's boring because You got one side playing really defensive and the other side just being patient. So that's what I saw today. I saw a lot of Chelsea just being really patient, waiting to break down that 11 in the box and finally get a goal through, and then it kind of opened up a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. It was one of those games, and it sort of took a little bit of time for Chelsea to. You were moving the ball well. You just weren't that clinical. But as soon as you scored, it was almost like Morecambe. They sort of lost that hope. In terms of individuals, you had a lot of some youngsters out there today, some fringe players. Anybody in particular stand out to you?
George is a baller. I mean, I've always been impressed by him, but today he really showed out. I think we found a number 9 to back up Jackson. I think Tosin is a much better athlete than any other center back or defender on the team, except for maybe Cucurella. He's just really a solid on the ball for a big man, and that second goal he scored was amazing. That was a goal scorer's goal. It wasn't a center back goal. So I was very impressed by him. The whole team played well. Obviously, there's a weird factor with Chelsea this year where you got Cucurella playing everything from left back to left wing to in the midfield to the number 10. So it's kind of hard to put your finger on what they actually do tactically or what they're supposed to be doing. But I know he's all over the pitch, so he's always fun to watch. I do think that they should rethink the thought of selling Vega. I think Vega's a key piece going forward. He's a young player, and he played extremely well today, both midfield and getting back on defense. But yeah, I think everyone was pretty impressive today. Obviously, Felix came on late, scored a couple of goals. I do think it's worth saying that Nkunku is, even though he's checked out, the class is still evident. He scored a very, very good goal today. I think he does look disinterested on the pitch now, and it is time to move him on. Hopefully they can get some other value back for him. I know he's still got a lot to give some club, but we're so congested at that position, and he's never going to play the Palmer position as long as Palmer's there. So I think he needs to go. But otherwise, I thought every player on the pitch performed well. I thought obviously George was the man today.
Yeah, I hear that about Nkunku. I think that he went there. I feel like his injury really scarpered him in terms of by the time he got fit, the club had just signed other players. Palmer, as an example, that plays centrally, I think came in and was so much better than anybody expected. And it's just almost circumstances are stopping Nkunku from playing regularly. And it looks like he's making that decision to sort of fly the nest and try something new to get that first team football. But I think you're right. There is certainly class in there from him still. And that move is probably needed. Kel, from your point of view, I know it was Salford, but how impressed were you today with City and, of course, the performances from a lot of your young players?
Yeah, that was the fun part, just getting to see the youngsters play. I'm happy McAtee got a hat trick, especially because he's from Salford, so that's just adds a little more funness to it. But up until the first goal he did, I thought he was having kind of a quiet game. The one I want to talk about is Nico O'Reilly. I thought he had a really good game. We've been crying for some height and some pace, and I thought it was going to be in the midfield, but it was more of a left back. But that's fine. We'll take it. We'll take it, man. Jack had a nice game too. We haven't seen much of Jack lately. There's been a lot of rumors and stories swirling about him. So to see him go out there and have a good game and finally score a goal after over a year, so that was good to see. But yeah, just a fun game. Salford fans, I could hear them on the broadcast. They seemed like they were making the best of it, even though they kind of knew it was going to happen. But yeah, it's just a fun game. The only thing that would have made it better is if Foden would have scored, just to drive the knife a little deeper into the back. But because he's a City boy, so. No,
I get that. I think what's interesting about your game is you could see that some of your young players were trying to show Pep, play me, I'm good. Like McAtee as an example, but the team didn't let up. And I think if you'd have not gone on this run, if you were sitting top of the league, maybe you'd have got to like 4 and then just took your foot off the gas and held possession. But you could almost see this. There was a lot of City fans a few weeks ago talking about a lack of desire, not working hard enough, not caring. But I feel as though the last couple of games, you can see the hunger and the love for the game and the desire to win coming back. And you were still trying to score in the last minute of the game. And I think that for rivals, some will say it's just Salford, it means nothing. For me, it's a little sobering watching you do that, because it demonstrates that this team hasn't just given up for the season, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it is nice. And I think there's just a lot of excitement right now because we've got a lot of links to some players. We made a signing yesterday. Well, Fabrizio confirmed, but still wait for the club to confirm. We've got some other ones hopefully coming in, and I think that's just energizing everybody because it's, a lot of the same players have had to play all these games because it's like half the team has been injured and it's been the same players getting injured, and then so everyone else has to constantly play. So today was just a chance to give some people a rest. Like Yashko needed a rest, Holland needed a rest, Bernardo definitely needed a rest. So it was good to see the kids come on and take their chance. And I wish they'd been getting more of them, but Pep's got a Pep. So what can you do about it? But they took their chance today, and I thought the kids were all really impressive.
What about your number 9? What did you make of him? Obviously, he picked up his goal as well. Impressed?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he did a job. I mean, he went in there. He was there to kind of fill in for Holland, and I think he did his job nicely. He was moving well. He was positioning himself pretty well, especially for that goal. It would have been nice to see him score a second one, but hey, 1 goal is good enough. That's fine. I mean, we had other people scoring, so goals all around today, so that was good. Doku got 2. He gets a lot of critique online from opposing fans, but it was nice to see him have a good game, and especially with Savio kind of coming in and taking his place last week. The last couple of weeks, Savio has been playing left wing, so maybe he feels the pressure to perform, and he definitely performed today. He's showing Pep like, hey, don't forget about me, and that'll just drive the two of them to be better. So I like that. That's kind of something we've been missing because these players, like I said, they've all been playing because other people have been injured. So there has been no competition and pushing players to be better. So once people start either coming in or getting healthy, we're going to start seeing these players performing better because they're going to have competition, and their spots are going to be threatened and their minutes are going to be threatened. So that'll get the best out of them, hopefully.
Certainly will. And competition is important. And as you say, there's at least 3 signings coming in, some really talented players. It looks
my oil club is back. Yes. Rivals are crying, man. The meltdowns online. Whew.
You guys were never gone.
We're not allowed to spend money, even though we spent no money over the summer. We're the only team not allowed to spend money. So everyone whining, you can hold that.
All football teams get labeled with that. I saw when Arsenal fans say we've got to spend money. What, you got to spend more? Yeah, yes. Whether you're successful or whether you fail, you always have to spend more money. At some point, you got to spend more money. I always love the argument of, you're spending again. Yes, continuously. Every summer and some Januaries, every single team, win, lose or draw, should be spending money, should be selling players, should be rotating the squad, keeping it fresh. I don't know about you both of you, because obviously you support Chelsea and City. They get a lot of stick. United get a lot of stick for spending, whether it works out or whether it goes wrong. I just sometimes sit there and think it's a bit of a tired argument now.
Oh, it's because the people crying about it are just jealous because their owners won't spend the money. That's what it comes down to. Because it's usually Liverpool and Arsenal fans. And I know Liverpool fans in particular are just crying out for FSG to spend money, and they want them out of the club because they won't do it. And, those two owners in particular seem very content on just getting the top 4. They don't seem to want to have to build a team that can win trophies for a long time. They're just like, if we win a trophy, it's a bonus, but we're just here for the top 4 money. That's how I look at it. And I think a lot of them are just jealous when they see owners who are willing to spend money and it's not theirs. So they just like to slam it. I've done the same thing in American sports. I've always hated on the Yankees because the Yankees just spend money like crazy. And now I'm a Red
Sox fan, so you got that. Yeah, I'm a Red Sox fan, so. But I actually don't mind it. I think it was worse when we had Roman, because Roman was really just flaunting it. Like, I'm a billionaire and I'm going to buy whatever I want and screw everybody else, and I'm going to try to beat you with money. And he was definitely a checkbook team at that point. This group, though, they do make a lot of money back. I think that's a strategy for them in the buying. I think it's more of, not only do we want to put a quality product on the pitch, but we also want to have some revenue coming in by selling some of the developed players, here and there. I think that it's more of a business move now than it was in the past, where it was more just a luxury purchase thing and just trying to be the biggest club out there.
Yeah, no,
keep grinding, rivals. Keep grinding. We're spending money and we're coming back. We had a blip this year, but
I hear that
What was it
completely.
this year? You're only holding it for one season. We're back
No,
next
listen,
year.
I hear it, and it's really funny because there's a few people that believe that Man United are completely broken, we're not, and our owners aren't going to spend now or in the future. I'm like, well, there's a reason that Sir Jim Ratcliffe, along with Man City's own, you know that there's times where there's a red cartel or there isn't. Well, at the moment, there's one particular that there isn't. That every club, no, what I mean, and I'll explain why there isn't. Clubs will vote and will push for different rules to best suit themselves. And we saw that with Everton as an example. Everton were on City's side when it came to challenging the associated parties until City pushed something through that meant the loans that clubs had to have interest on them. And then because that impacted Everton poorly, they switched to the other team. No one is out there supporting Man United. Nobody is out there supporting other clubs. Are not supporting United. They're not supporting City. They're voting for what's best for their football club. And I'll give you an example. At the moment, Manchester City, along with Chelsea, being led by Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Man United, are pushing to have the pushing to have the rule changed for spending caps. The point I'm making is every single club has got a list of things that it wants to be in place, and depending upon what it wants, it will side with different people in the Premier League to get what they think's best. So I don't believe there's a particular cartel that work together on every little thing. It's everybody is self-serving, and everybody will vote for what they believe is the best for their football club and their current circumstances, and fair play. And that makes absolute sense to go and do that. So, and to the point we're making, the spending, it's one of those things. As long as your club is generating that income organically and legally within the rules of the game, you should be pushing to spend. I used to, for years, I used to get into fights with people that go, yeah, Terry, you might have won 5 more league titles than us, but our net spend is better. I used to sit there and go, but your net spend's only good because you lose all your best players. Why are you celebrating that? It never made any sense as a flex to me. It was a strange one. It's like saying, well, my girlfriend left me, so I've got a bit more money in the bank. But that's not a good thing still, bruv. Like, she left you still. It's not nice. It's painful. V, though, what did you make of City today?
Man, I was amped for it. It's a cup run that I really enjoy watching. And there's some fans that kind of say, you know what, you've outgrown certain cups, like you only want to focus on the Prem and focus on champs. I'm not one of them. I really love this tournament.
Good man.
And the fact that Pep played, and Kels was talking about earlier, but Pep playing the youngsters and us getting a chance to see them was absolutely amazing. I like seeing how they adjust to Pep's instructions, how they play under the bright lights, and they were playing at home, so there was that added motivation to want to show off for the crowd. So I absolutely loved it. The score line was, I mean, you're going to be entertained. Like for the kids that were in the stands, for those that made it a family outing, I think everybody was entertained, and it's also a game where I was like, you know what, Pep, your subs were late enough where I'm like, okay, we still got an eye on Brentford. We still got to deal with that, and we move. It's one game at a time type settings right now. Mm-hmm. Kels and I are like, we're enjoying life a little more now because it's one game at a time. Let's kind of see if we can secure this top 4. What happens with regards to this transfer windows, we'll wait and see.
Very exciting right now.
But we're enjoying 2025 so far, man. So it's nice. And Terry, may I say Happy New Year to you, KJ? It's been a minute, and you look very nice in that color. You look nice in that color.
Switching sides.
The thing is, there's a reason that I will wear sky blue on camera. Do you know it sounds weird, right? I'm not digging people out. When I lived in Manchester, when I used to see City fans put on like Santa outfits, but it would be like the City, they wouldn't wear red because United wear red. I used to sell mobile phones when I lived in Manchester, a phone shop, and certain people wouldn't take out Vodafone contracts because United was sponsored by them. And part of me was just like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. Well, Everton fans do it. They wear blue Santa outfits. And I just think there's something about that I'm like, yeah, I'm not that insecure. I can wear this. I can wear sky blue. It doesn't matter to me, if that makes sense. So yeah, fair enough. It is. I didn't think about it when I put it on this morning, but yes, I am. When a lot of men say I'm comfortable in my sexuality, I'm comfortable in the club I support, so I can wear other colors. It's the same difference for me. PSR was made by the Red Cartel.
That is true. The response to FFP was a response to Roman.
PSR is a very. I was listening to an economist talk the other day. Limiting the amount of money that billionaires can pump into football is very, very important to the pyramid of the game. It's very, very dangerous. It's the same as quantitative easing in the general economy. It can rack up prices and it can create major, major problems for clubs and teams with less money. I didn't even think about it from this point of view. I'm going to do a full video on it soon, and not me speaking, but the economist. I'm reaching out to him to try and get him on. Very, very dangerous for football indeed. I wanted the rules around the associated parties to go so Ineos could pump more money, and I've now changed my mind on that after reading what I did. It's what quantitative easing does to the economy is the reason why you guys are all now paying like £35 for a cup of coffee is because of things like quantitative easing. We don't want that in football. Hi Terry, will you be surprised if City win the Prem?
I don't know about that.
Yes,
a little bit.
Yeah.
Not
a little bit, a lot.
No, I'm not thinking about my response. I'm thinking about how I explain my response. So, yes, because Liverpool are the clear favourites and have a world-class squad, so they should be winning it from here.
Facts.
Would it be the biggest shock? Would it be as big a shock as Leicester winning the Prem or Blackburn? Maybe not Blackburn. They had a lot of money. No, but yes, I would be shocked. Liverpool should be winning the Premier League from this point. It doesn't matter that it's Man City potentially chasing them down, Arsenal chasing them down. They're 6 points clear from second with a game in hand. What are they? 12 points clear of you? Something like that?
12 or 13. It's something crazy.
12 or 13 with a game in hand. If Liverpool lose it from this point, they should be forced to fold the football club. To City, that is, by the way, to City. They should be folding the football club. They really, really should. So that's what I was doing.
Can't forget about Forest. They're right there.
This is true.
We keep forgetting about them.
To be fair, Terry is of the age before United took off in the Prem. I'm of the age. I was watching football 3 to 4 seasons before the Premier League existed. So I remember quite vividly lots of moments from Italia 90, which is well before the Premier League. And I remember one of the saddest days of my life was my uncles and my dad and everybody laughing at me for saying I was a Man United fan. There were Spurs fans laughing at me. That's football gods were working back then. I think they saw that moment and said, we're going to get you back for that, so maybe that's why I don't like people laughing at less fortunate clubs at this time, but there we go. You wish City would leave. Do you know what's really funny about some of the City fans that watch the show? I sit here praising you, and all they do is abuse me. It's not nice for my feelings, MC. I know you're doing it as banter, but it shows a real inferiority complex that you have, that you get praised and it's never good enough. I think you need some counseling, some real counseling.
Hold on. How are you reading all of that from his message saying you wish City would leave? Because deep down,
because him and 3 others have been messaging. So I'll sit there and go, "You guys looked amazing today. McAtee looked brilliant." And it's like, say it without crying, Terry. You hate it really. You don't really want to. I've been messaging the whole show. Gotcha. So yeah, that's how I know. But it's like I do think there's a therapy thing here. You must have had friends like it. No matter how much you praise them, they're like, no, they can't accept it. They're quite negative people. It's like you need to talk to somebody. I think you need a little bit of help. And by the way, I'm bantering you back here, so please don't cry. It's a bit of fun. Terry, we know you hate City. Of course I do. They're the local rivals to my club. Yeah, but mine isn't to do with the money. I've never bemoaned how much money you've spent ever. I've never called Pep.
He knows about the money.
I've never called Pep a checkbook manager. I've never said your success is down to spending money directly. I've praised the structure of the club, praised how you've been run. I've done conversations about the allegations against you because it would be irresponsible not to talk about them. I've equally said, if you're proven innocent, I will stand shoulder to shoulder. So there is a hatred there in terms of a rivalry, but I'm objective with it because I'm hosting a show about it. However, do I want City to be good? No. But at the same time, for the last 8 years, I've said they're the best team in the world. It's the highest praise. No club on the terrace has had more praise from me and no higher praise from me than Manchester City in the last 8 years. And that is a cast iron fact.
The clubs demanded it. Actually, the performance of City, how resilient, how just deliberate it's been in terms of wanting to be successful. You can't help but praise because the evidence been there over the years. But you said something, and I was like, you know what? Do I challenge him right now? Do we let it pass?
Challenge away. I like it.
You honestly don't think that there's been a red cartel?
So when you say red cartel, frame it for me for how you see it so I can respond to it directly. I want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, you don't think the established, right? The little circle, the circle of clubs that were established with success that happened to be red clubs were reluctant and did do what they could to prevent a Chelsea, another entry of a Chelsea coming forward, hence Manchester City.
They're blocking Newcastle right now.
So the answer I would use is no, but let me unpack that.
Yeah.
Of course there are times where Man United, Liverpool, and Arsenal will side with each other and vote for the same things. That's when that particular ruling is beneficial to their clubs. So if you're a billionaire owner who's worth 5 billion and 5, 6, 8 of that money is stocks and shares and bricks and mortar. So you're not, but there's another owner that's got 20, 30 billion of cash. Absolutely, you're going to vote for rules that limit that person pumping in more money than you because you can't compete.
And Terry, can I, as you expand on that, can I say this?
Go on.
Do you think as some of these clubs were making their votes, do you think it was solely for the betterment of their club or the betterment of the league?
That's why I don't believe there's a red cartel. I don't believe that most clubs vote for what they think is best for the entire league. They vote for what is best for them individually. City, United, Brighton, Chelsea, blue, claret, red, yellow, green, whatever color shirts they wear, I believe the majority will vote for their best interest. The example being, there have been times where Chelsea and City have been on the same side as Man United and Liverpool. For instance, all of our clubs, Liverpool, by the way, are outside of this. You two blue clubs and us red club, we don't want a spending cap to be brought in as an example. So on that particular vote, our owners and board and your owners and boards are in cahoots and having conversations about how to get that through. There could be another rule, though, that the United owners look at and go, actually, no, we want that because that's better for us for X, Y, and Z reason. So we'll fight you against it. I don't believe that Man United and Arsenal and Liverpool agree and vote for all of the same rules just to hurt you. I think their motive, sometimes some of their votes will hurt you, but I don't believe that is their top priority. Their top priority is the same as every other club in the Premier League. What is best for me? Self-preservation. And the irony is this. So you'll get some people that will say, hang on, let me just, I'll come to you after I've said this. Some people will say the reason Brighton don't want, they're voting against associated party transactions to be limited is because they lack ambition. Where I see it the other way, it doesn't matter how much ambition their owners got, never has enough money to compete with at least 10 other owners in the Premier League. So because they're ambitious and they want to be able to compete, they have to try and limit everybody else's spending so that they can potentially catch them up. Everybody is still ambitious. It's just you have to go about things in different ways depending upon the wealth that you have. So I don't buy into, and the more I've looked into this and the more it gets discussed, the more I think about it. I understand why people think a red cartel exists and everything else, but I don't believe that Brighton, and I don't believe that West Ham, I don't believe that Ipswich, and I'm picking teams that don't wear red here, I don't believe they vote for the same rules as Man United to help Man United. I don't believe like this red cartel is controlling the rest of the league. I believe all those clubs vote independently for what they think is best for them. And sometimes it will hurt Man United. Sometimes it will hurt City. Sometimes the voting might hurt a smaller club as an example. But for me, I don't think it's a case of 3 clubs controlling what maybe 10, 12 other clubs do directly. I don't believe in many conspiracy theories, least of all that one.
Well, like you, I'm gonna do my homework, and I think there is an importance of the timeline of things. I think it is interesting to see when, quote unquote, the red cartel worked together and what was a threat to them, hence the red cartel at the time. And then obviously with their lack of ability to prevent entry of other clubs, then obviously you can't really say a red cartel because it's quote unquote been infiltrated with other clubs that are just as successful or just as powerful. But there was a moment when the red cartel didn't want strength or that loss of strength amongst themselves. But yeah, I'll do my homework as well. We'll chop this up again.
So no, listen, I totally get where you're coming from. And do I think that, of course, there are times where those clubs get together and they all agree on a particular subject and a particular rule, and they will all look to vote in that way. But people do that in every walk of life where there's a vote. You know, whether you're at work, you know, if there's going to be a vote at work, that's going to mean that you get something you want. You're definitely going to talk to other colleagues about what are they going to vote for. You're going to try and influence people because you want, but you still want that because you want the end result to be what's best for you. And I think what's really significant is when you look at the Super League. So there was no red cartel when the Super League existed because there was two blue clubs and a white and blue club that also decided to enter that tournament. Now, I know there's all these, certain clubs followed suit. Well, I never bought that. And I tell you as to why. Like, I tell you as to why I didn't buy it. And this is the compliment to your football club. When I've heard City fans say, yeah, but we just did it because the others did, I don't believe Sheikh Mansour is going to follow these other people and go, I'm going to have to do it because they've done it. That man and your club, too well run, too powerful, too strong as individuals to go, okay, guys, we'll follow like lost puppies, the red cartel. I don't believe it. They made a decision, like with the rest of us, that it was a good idea. And it wasn't, and I believe every club is the same in this, it wasn't until they saw the backlash where they went, fuck me, look at that. And everybody then pulled out. So that's why I don't believe a red cartel exists, because only 5 years ago, all six were working together to break away and start a Super League, and they were all in cahoots over that. So because they all felt it was better for them, better for what they're trying to achieve than staying in the Premier League. And I still think, if they were all to be honest, that I bet they wished it happened than it did. I bet every single owner wished the Super League went ahead if they were being absolutely honest about things.
I know FSG in particular wanted it.
Yeah, and that's why I don't believe that there. Yeah, I don't believe there's a red cartel who everything's like every decision they make is right. We've got to stop the guys in blue because we don't like them. It's what's best for our football club. And what's really interesting is this: 7-8 years ago, Newcastle fans would have sided with the Brightons, with the West Hams, maybe with the Man United and Arsenals on certain rules. But now their owners have changed. Their mindsets have changed. Most Newcastle fans online, what they said about you guys, City fans, for a decade was unbelievable, considering they've got now similar owners and their mindsets changed. And Man United fans, if we had Qatar come in, a lot of our minds would change. And by the way, if Sheikh Mansour sells you tomorrow and you get a new owner that isn't as rich, do you know what? Your minds will change because you will always want what's best for your football club. People don't like to admit that, though. I was talking to the boys, Hugh Wizzy, in that last night, and they were saying to me, talking about the cuts that my ownership have made. And I said it on that show. I've said it on others. I'm disgusted about the cuts to the charity. That's why I've offered the Terrace to help raise money and replace some of that money that's gone. I'm disgusted by removing the Christmas bonuses and the steward bonuses. Those three things in particular, I think, are wrong. Some of the other cuts I'm not necessarily against. I think the ticket increase has been ridiculously high and that they should be reducing that. What I said to them, though,
you were in favor of the reduction for Sir Alex, right? You like that? Yeah,
that bit doesn't bother me. Yeah, someone worth 70-80 million pound losing a £2 million a year income to sort of sit there and wait. For me, I love Sir Alex, but I don't think he needs that money, right? I'm not worried about that particularly. He is definitely eating turkey every Christmas.
He should have been cut off a long time ago.
Yeah. What I was saying to them is this: what I don't like about Man United being called out isn't that United are being called out. Is that I don't think people really care about the issues they're calling out. I think they're using it as a stick to beat Man United with, as opposed to caring about Man United or City or Newcastle or Chelsea actually supporting local communities and people. I think a lot of people virtue signal. I think a lot of people have pseudo-moralistic stances. And the reason I say that is I started doing research into how much Premier League clubs actually give to charity. And other than Chelsea, Charlton Athletic, the last time the numbers were documented and published was about 4 to 5 years ago. Charlton Athletic, other than Chelsea, Charlton Athletic give more per year to charity than every other top 6 Premier League club. And there's a couple of members of the top 6 that weren't even inside the top 20 clubs in England to donate to charities. Now, as I said to the boys last night, I'm not doing whataboutism, saying, well, we're okay because you don't do it anyway. it can be interpreted that way. But what I'm stating is, if you really cared about clubs that make hundreds of millions and billionaire owners cutting from charity or not giving to charity, you would have an absolute macro view of this and look at it as the whole of football. You wouldn't be solely focused on Man United and beating us with a stick and pointing fingers. You look at your own club. You look at clubs that have owners that make my owners look poor, who do very little. And that's the problem with a lot of these conversations, is it's often never about the direct subject in hand. It's all just about shitting on a rival and making them look bad, as opposed to actually caring about a scenario. And some people do, but I would.
It's got to be a combination of the two, Terry, because you guys are united. You guys are the flagship. You guys are the North Star of English football. So you're supposed to be held to a different standard. I hear it all the time. You know, you guys are Manchester United.
But if we're held to a different standard, there's another thing I would say. I can handle that. But then when you will talk about us generally, talk about us with more respect as well. I think if you're going to put us on that pedestal, which I don't necessarily think we should be put on a pedestal above you all. I don't believe that.
You don't?
Then I think, but then we have to be on that pedestal. No, because I'm not that arrogant. If we're on that pedestal, then we should be on that pedestal at all times, should we not? We can't pick and choose as rivals when we hold Man United to this standard, because where are all our rivals when it's pedestal, when in relation to this pedestal, when the Glazers are running us into the ground? Where were you all on the picket lines? Where were you all standing outside our ground? Where were you all on social media saying to the FA and the Premier League, this is a disgrace that you're letting our flagship club be run like this? None of you cared when we were being run into the ground. Don't suddenly care when a charity has lost 50 grand a year in donations and go, yeah, but you're the flagship. We have to care what you do because you're the torchbearer. But you didn't care when the torchbearer was being run into the ground by the Glazers. For me, it's you have to have that energy at all times or not at all.
If you're going to have that energy, it's also very difficult to be the neighbor protesting more than my actual neighbor. Your fans need to be the ones that are talking the loudest, not. No,
and I agree. I agree with that. What I'm saying is, if you're going to put us on a pedestal and say we're the example, we're the beacon, we're the face of English football, and you set the standard for all of us, then I need that energy at all times from rivals. You can't pick and choose when you put us on a pedestal.
Well, it's a
because that for me is the epitome of virtue signaling and pseudo moralistic stances. Oh, in this scenario, I'm going to say you're the beacon, you're the example maker, you're the role model. But when it doesn't suit my purpose, I'm just going to say you're shit and you're scumbags and laugh at the bad things that are going on. It's either got to be all or nothing for me on that. Breaking news, I want to get your opinions on quickly. Kyle Walker has asked to leave Manchester City. 2 days ago, Kyle Walker asked to explore options to play abroad and his career. Pep has just confirmed that Kyle Walker has essentially handed in a transfer request. Thoughts on that?
I think it's the right time. Maybe slightly overdue, but I don't want to forget about the incredible 8 years he's had at this club, or however many years it's been. I know it's been very easy to forget that based on the past 2 seasons where his performances have dropped, but Father Time comes for everybody. So
yes,
we kind of have to, we probably should have moved him on a few years sooner, but we didn't. But yeah, I'm just not going to forget how good he's been for this club just because he's been kind of poor recently. And, you know, he's got to do what he's got to do to take care of his family. If he wants to go to Saudi and get back, I don't blame him. I don't blame anybody for going to Saudi to collect a bunch of money. I really don't.
I think I mean, when you sign up to be a professional footballer, your life's in the public eye, right? And he's had some very unfortunate things to transpire off the pitch that
he's self-inflicted.
Very
done
public.
A lot of that himself.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think this is why, even when Kel says it's kind of like long overdue, he needs a change of venue. He needs to be less under the spotlight, handle with what's happening in his family and his personal life. And if that means going abroad somewhere else because you don't quite have the attention, it might be the best for him. Obviously, these are people at the end of the day. So, like Kel's, I love what he's been able to do at my club. Like, honestly,
fantastic.
absolutely incredible. It's funny conversations with regards to who's been the best right back over several years. The last two, everyone taking their shots at him, rightfully so, because his form's dipped. But
Strictly based
before
on
that,
experience.
there was no question he was the right back. Because what do we want at the end of the day? We want our right back to defend, and that's why he's been the best. He's not at it right now. So if that's official, we'll obviously talk amongst our city fans and hear the story and hear behind the scenes within the Twitter spaces and some of the conversation we have. But if it is something that he wants to do in 2025 for January, I'm in support of it. And it makes a lot of sense with regards to how aggressive we've been in the transfer window as well. Maybe making moves to already be ready to replace him.
With 2 defenders.
Yeah, no, I agree. Look, he was a brilliant player, one of the best right backs in Premier League history. I feel that he was always a player that relied a lot on recovery pace. And that's fine because it's an attribute that he has. But as soon as that, he's still quick. But that acceleration in the first 4, 5, 6 yards in the last 18 months has waned. And as soon as that's gone, it's been exposed. And City, yes, it's been a bad season for you by the standards you've set in recent years. But he is nowhere near the level to play for you right now. And I think, again, it's a sign of a very well-run club, typically speaking, that says he's shown us he can't do it. We have to move him on. So, yes, he's handed in a transfer request, but you'll probably find it's through having conversations and the club have said, we're buying new players, we're phasing you out. So, if you let us know, let us know. I guarantee his transfer request has not come as a shock to Pep, if that makes sense.
No, not at all.
He's been taking a lot of heat on social media. There's been some very disgusting fans on Twitter that I've blocked because I just can't deal with them. Posting some really horrible things, and he was seeing them because he was posting them on his social media to being like, this is unacceptable. It's probably best for his headspace to just get away from it all.
And look, every single one of us
know that real fans really appreciate him, and we love him. And
absolutely.
We
and
accept that Father Time has come.
every single fan base in the world has a percentage because it's just a reflection of society of scumbag. And by the way, I think a lot of the people that pretend to be City fans that abuse your players, pretend to be United fans that abuse the players, they're always 9 times out of 10, they're nameless and faceless. I've always felt that I think they're rivals anyway that are doing it to try and stir up trouble within a fan base, if that makes sense. So, or literally children. So it's it's bad, but it's not as bad as it could be. What is this news here? Man United have offered a loan and 34 million obligation to buy an issue from Sports. We'll see. We'll see. I'll do some more talk about the transfers tomorrow. But thank you for sharing that, bro. I'll take a little look. More transfer talk tomorrow. Listen, Kel, Ronin, nice to meet you, my bro. Nice to see you. I know you've super chatted a lot, and I want to thank you very much for doing that for the Football Terrace, my man. I appreciate that. Always a pleasure to speak to you, brother. We're back tomorrow. Transfer news, a little fan channel review, and of course, the big one tomorrow. Arsenal versus Manchester United in the FA Cup. Until next time, take care, goodbye, God bless, and we'll see you all again very, very soon. Peace.